Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is a bit of a late night for me. I just went through my 4-hour training session, longest of the week, after work. So at this point I'm filming, it's like 11 p.m. at night, but I'm going off to Michigan tomorrow. So I wanted to get this out for you all, kind of looking and comparing the new style flexible SBD wrist wraps. They came out with the Momentum packaging. I put these through their paces tonight at the gym for my SBD session that I had mentioned, and I do want to make a comparison to the original flexible wrist wraps that I have here. I think I'm probably one of the better people who could speak for these comparisons, mainly because I've used the flexible wrist wrap for, let's see, I started working with SBD in 2017, and I think I used their wrist wraps since 2016. So it's been over 7 years at this point that I've been using this specific wrist wrap. So they just came out with a new design, and I want to give you my thoughts and first impressions. They also did redesign, to my knowledge, the stiff wrist wraps, which I plan to come out with another video for that one, but it probably won't be tonight. I did try those out at the gym, but for the most part I use these flexible wrist wraps like I normally do. So let's see, first off, first impressions here. I can tell that these newer flexible wrist wraps are a lighter material, right? Just to hold them, they are softer in general than the old material, and even to flex them, this is much easier, right? It's a softer flexible material. Now, there's some upside and downside to this. So one of the upsides, I'll start with that, is because it's more flexible, I guess laterally is the way you would call it, it forms to your wrist much better, right? When you wrap it, it kind of conforms, and I would say there's a better like form-fitting compression all the way throughout the wrap. Whereas sometimes whenever I would wrap the old style, right, they don't feel as snug to the joint as these. Now, with that said, in my opinion, I have to wrap these harder to get the same amount of support that I get with these. I'm one of those, because I use the flexible wrist wraps for both squat and bench, and in my experience, the stiff wrist wraps are a little bit too stiff for my liking. I just feel like they take a little bit too much effort to wrap them. I've always felt like this is the perfect balance between the two. Now, with the newer design, I feel like it's a step down in support, which, you know, the balance here is you can wrap it tighter, right? So I can get a lot more stretch and probably get around my hand. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times around with that wrap. Whereas the old style, let's give it a try, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I can actually get around my hand one more time with this new style wrap as compared to the old style, and that's just a testament to how much more stretch it has. Now, with that said, just anecdotally, right, this is going to cut off my circulation in my hand way faster because I wrapped it tighter and it's cutting off my circulation a little bit more. Whereas this one has a little bit more of a cast-like feel to it, and it's not as constricting, and that's kind of a byproduct of the material not being as flexible, in my opinion. So right now I could definitely keep this on, whereas I'm aching to get this off right now, right? Because it is kind of cutting off my circulation. Now, the good side to that is, okay, this adds a little more versatility. You can wrap it a little bit tighter, you could wrap it a little less tight if you wanted to, whereas this one, you don't have as much optionality to it. Now, in my opinion, I didn't feel a ton of difference, especially benching with these, which is kind of counterintuitive. I felt like squatting with them, I had a little bit more bend in my wrist. So I have yet to decide if I like that or not. So I'm going to have to keep working with the new design here to decide, you know, do I want to stick with it or do I want to go with one of the older designs for either squat or bench press. And at this point, I'm leaning towards, if I'm going to stick with the old design, it'll be for squat, just to take a little bit more support here. Now, the other kind of interesting note, and I'll walk this up to the camera so that you can see it. Sorry, I'm still a mess. I came straight home from the gym, ate, and then wanted to film this for you all. But if you can take a look here, right? So material wise, you can see the middle of the new variation here. There is a change in material in the middle of the wrap. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. It looks like the stitching is a little bit more coarse in the middle. And if I had to guess, that's what allows for the more flexibility. And I don't have calipers. It's not like I'm measuring this. The width of the material seems a little bit thinner, right? So a little bit more thin, a little bit less support unless you crank it down more. Now, my concern with this, and I'll be curious, I'm hoping it's not how I expect, is I feel like this middle material may be subject to fraying a little bit easier than this material that the old style is made in. Now, the one thing that's good is the Velcro flap on the wrist wraps, and I've always liked this about SBD, is this is the soft end of the Velcro. So this isn't going to get caught on any other part of the wrap and cause any fraying. Because looking at this, and with past experiences with wrist wraps, I've had fraying happen. But fortunately, this is the stiff part of the Velcro, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen too much. The only place I could foresee it, and you can see after tonight's training, a little bit, you know, this gets frayed, which that's bound to happen. It's happened a little bit with this set, but you know, just something to note. So overall, my takeaways with the new design, of course, I need to put them through a little bit more testing, right? I'm going to keep training with this new design. First impression, I think I just really enjoyed the old design so much, and it's especially because I don't use the stiff version. And if I had to rate them, you know, this old flexible design is like a middle ground between the newer design and a stiff SBD wrist wrap. So I like that versatility personally. Now, this has very similar versatility, so I don't see any downside, but of course you do have, with that more versatility, some optionality to wrap your wrist tighter or more loose depending on what kind of set you need, right? So like this time around, I wrapped it a little bit more loose. I didn't crank it down, and I could definitely keep this on for longer. And I do like that, and I like how it's form-fitting around your wrist. So At the moment, the verdict is out. I'm going to keep using these newer style wrist wraps, and I'll let you know as we go. But if you are a fan of wrist wraps that you can really crank and really have a lot of stretch, I would definitely give these a shot. And then if you are a fan of more of a cast-like feeling on your wrist wraps, in that case, I would go with the stiff version, which I do have a pair. I tried them out tonight. I want to put them through more paces before I can give you a solid review on those. So overall, those are the SBD Momentum wrist wraps. Full disclosure, I am sponsored by SBD. They did send these to me for me to use, and I appreciate that as always. So I have a built-in bias, but as always, I'm going to share my honest opinion with you all to best make decisions for your powerlifting journey. So I appreciate you all watching until this point. If you have, please like and subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, happy lifting.